Okay, tonight is actually a holiday. The holiday of? Today's a big Hasidic holiday. It's big Farbrengens. Chaf Av. It's the yahrzeit of the Rebbe's father. The Rebbe's father passed away. He was exiled to Alma, Kazakhstan, and he passed away. It says actually, from the 15th of Av, we can already wish each other k'tiva v'chatima tova. May you be written and inscribed for a good and sweet year. Rosh Hashanah is in there. In fact, our email that we just sent out, our weekly Chabad email, already has all the Rosh Hashanah stuff on it. You can sign up for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, because from the 15th of Av, which was a couple of days ago, we can wish each other k'tiva v'chatima tova, have a good, happy, healthy, and sweet year. Now, it's brought down in our holy books that the numerical value of Chamisha Asar Be'av is K'tiva V'Chatima Tova. Isn't that amazing? It's 928. If you want to work it out, you can work it out. Be my guest. I actually worked it out today just to make sure. But the numerical value of Chamisha Asar Be'av is K'tiva V'Chatima Tova. Because from the time the 15th of Av comes about, we can wish each other K'tiva V'Chatima Tova. What's special about 15th of Av? How many days before Rosh Hashanah is 15th of Av?
40.
40?
45. 15 plus 30, how much?
15 plus 30 is 45.
Yes.
It's 45 days before Rosh Hashanah. But the cheer tonight, what's the title of the class tonight?
40.
40. So why are we talking about the 15th of Av if it's 45 days before Rosh Hashanah? Tonight's class is going to explain the significance of 40. There's a huge thing about the number 40. So much so, the story is told, there was once a woman who, there was a special skula for saying Tehillim or praying like 40 days in a row, right? We all know these special skulot, these omens for good health and happiness and everything good to happen to you if you do this for 40 days. So she made a commitment, a vow, 40 days. But one of the days was Shabbat and it was very hot, so she had to ask her rabbi what to do, Shabbat when it's hot. Anyway, the rabbi said 40, continue. Because 40 is a very auspicious day, as we're going to learn about tonight, as a special day. So the 15th of Av is 40 days before the 25th day of Elul. The 25th day of Elul is the day the world was created. Rosh Hashanah, we celebrate, we mark what, Tamara?
New Year.
Rosh Hashanah, what happened on Rosh Hashanah?
The world was finished being created.
The world was finished being created. Very good.
That was math.
Rosh Hashanah, Adam Harishon, the first man, Adam was created. By the way, why was Adam created last? For two reasons. We tell him, if Adam, he reacts, he does what he's supposed to do. He does what he's supposed to do, then we tell him. And we tell him? I got to tell you, some people asking me, the book, I had it here last night, my book that I hope you all buy on Amazon or bought it on Amazon and write good reviews on it on Amazon. Somebody asked me, what was your most popular blog ever? The most popular blog ever. What was it? And you won't believe it. It was a story in around 2015 or 2017, those years. There was a story in Cincinnati Zoo. There was a gorilla by the name of Harambe that was doing well, the silver gorilla, extinct gorilla that was doing well in the Cincinnati Zoo. And this family was there with their child Isaac. And this Isaac child fell into the gorilla enclave. And the gorilla noticed this. And as you know, gorillas are like very strong. They're 20 times stronger than the strongest man there is. So the gorilla with his hand, he pushed him, and he went like flying, like literally a hurdle down the lake there with the water thing, So the zookeepers didn't know what to do. They have to save Isaac, the 3-year-old Isaac. So what do? So what do you think they did? What would you do if you're the zookeeper? Lev, what would you do?
Sedate
So if you sedate the gorilla, that's one option. But they didn't do that. They took a gun and they shot the gorilla dead. And this created one of the biggest uproars in the world. By the way, there was another time, there was Cecil, the lion in Zimbabwe, that there was a dentist from the United States of America came and hunted him down. And the world went crazy, went sugar. But the world went crazy. So I wrote a blog. And people were going crazy because why didn't the zoo sedate him? And people wrote if they would sedate him, it would take 2 seconds till the sedation came out, and those 2 seconds he would kill Isaac. And people wrote, should have saved the gorilla. The gorilla's life is more important than Isaac. And it all boiled down to this, whose life is more important? And the internet went berserk. So I wrote a blog, I went in there. And this was my most popular blog ever. What I wrote about was that, I said, Dear Isaac, it's a letter, which is in my book. I said, Dear Isaac, at the end of the day, people are saying whose life is more important. So it says Adam was created on day number 6 of creation. And the reason why he was created last could be 2 reasons. Either because we tell Adam, you are the most important person in the whole world, and you are like a king who comes to a ready-made palace. Everything is prepared for you in advance, and you don't come, like you come last. Or we tell him, Yatush kadmecha, even a mosquito preceded you. A mosquito is considered the lowest of the low, the lowest animal. Why, by the way? Why is a mosquito the lowest of the low? They're the most... Because
annoying.
Because it's annoying, right? The mosquito is what?
They kill more people than the mosquitoes.
Yeah?
Blood.
It's machnis ve'eino motzi. Machnis means it absorbs, but it doesn't excrete. According to the Talmud, every animal excretes, gives to society. And an animal that only takes, a human being that only takes and doesn't give, is the lowest of the low. And so we tell Adam, you are the lowest of the low. If a human being, I tell Isaac, if Isaac, you fulfill your mission in the world and you do what you are supposed to do in the world, then we tell you that you were created last because you are the greatest of the great. But if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then you lower even than an animal, you are lower than Harambe. So in the blog I didn't say quite that. I just only said, if you do what you're supposed to do, then you are the greatest. It didn't end off, which, and that's why this created a sensation, this blog. But anyways, getting back to the original point that we're talking about tonight, is that Rosh Hashanah is a creation of man. 15th of Av is 40 days before the creation of the world. And tonight I want to discuss the number 40, which is so important and so imperative. So who knows, where do we find the number 40 in Torah? There are 40 what? 41? Rabbi Echad, what 40? Rabbi Echad, until the age of 40 years old, didn't study Torah.
Years we wandered in the desert.
Very good. There are 40 years that we wandered in the desert. More specifically, Moses led the Jewish people for 40 years. What else? Tell me about the number 40.
40 years, 40 days until we know the birth.
40 yom kodem yetzirat havlad. 40 days before the fetus is formed, is shaped. What do we do with that fetus? That's when we are machriz. That's when we announce its whole spiritual or destiny, so to speak. What else is 40?
40 days, Moshe was
That's why we are talking about this in this week's parasha. We're talking about the following happening. In this week's parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people, I was 40 days up there. And this is what I want to discuss tonight. What does it mean he was 40 days up there? Moshe Rabbeinu was on the mountain how many times? 3 times. Okay, this is very important for just understanding the situation. The first time Moshe Rabbeinu, the story was like this. Moses gave the Torah, so to speak. We got the Torah on Har Sinai. Okay, backtrack. The Jewish people were in the desert, in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. And they came out of Egypt and they counted 49 days till the giving of the Torah. That's this holiday of Shavuot. So God came down on the mountain and gave them the Torah. What do we receive then? What do we receive?
Luchot.
Nothing. We received nothing. God gave us the Torah, right? We think we received the Luchot. We did not receive anything. God gave us the Torah. Fantastic, beautiful, wonderful, and great. The next morning, so this was Vav Sivan or Zayin Sivan. The next morning, Zayin Sivan, Moses went onto the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. And what did he do? He was studying Torah. He was receiving the Torah from God. He came down with the beautiful tablets, the actual tablets. He came down on the date of... Nope. 40 days after Vav Sivan is Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, 17th day of Tammuz. He comes down the 17th day of Tammuz and the Jewish people are serving the golden calf. So he takes these tablets and he smashes them on the ground. Boom, kaput. And that's when God was upset and 3,000 Jews died. Yeah, story. The next day, Moses goes back up on the mountain for 40 days. So the next day is now Yud-Chet Tammuz, approximately. He comes back down after 40 days. It's now around Chavtet Av, 29th day of Av. And what does he come back with?
Another set of tablets.
Nothing. He comes back down with nothing. He had tried to daven, to pray for the Jewish people. He comes down after 40 days and he goes back up. Now, what's the date that he goes back up? Rosh Chodesh of Elul. Rosh Chodesh Elul. Today, this morning, I started learning a Maimer, a Hasidic discourse of the Rebbe, which describes the month of Elul. It says the month of Elul already, the wind is different, the air is different, the atmosphere is different. The month of Elul. Moses spent 40 days on the mountain, and he came down on what date? Yom Kippur. And now he came down with the second tablets. He came down with the second tablets, and the Jewish people, God granted their forgiveness. Machal, machul, 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 machal. The whole forgiveness was achieved, was obtained. Now, the third time, the second tablets. Got it? That's the chronological order. And in our Parshat, Moses is telling over his life story. He's telling over all the events that happened, that transpired, and he's complaining bitterly. He says, because of you guys, you know what happened when I was there on the mountain? In heaven, I didn't eat or drink. Why didn't Moses eat or drink? Why not?
Because he was asking for teshuva.
Oh, can you survive without eating or drinking?
He didn't need to. He was sustained by the Lord.
It says that when you go to a certain country and the country has certain mannerisms, you need to act like them. You go to a Sephardic shul, you keep the Sephardic customs. You go to Ashkenaz shul, you keep the Ashkenaz customs. You go to Chabad, you keep the Chabad customs. So Moses learned from the angels. When the angels came down and they were guests of Abraham. Remember, Abraham thought they were human beings. So he gave them food. And what did they do? Did they eat or they didn't eat? They acted like they ate. They pretended to eat because they didn't want to, because they in their host country they eat. So they pretended to eat. So Moses, when he went up to the mountain to the angels, he acted like an angel. He didn't eat. He didn't eat and he didn't drink. Okay? Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty of this. There are three major things that we have in order to make change, which is all about the class tonight. The first one is Torah, right? We say Unetane Tokef. By the way, what's the most important prayer in the whole Machzor? The most important one is Unetane Tokef. Ask a Sephardi what's Unetane Tokef, and they have no idea what you're talking about. Do you know that for the Ashkenazim, the most important thing Unetane Tokef, I remember growing up in a shul in Johannesburg, South Africa, my father's shul, and the chaz and the cantor would say this prayer for an hour. Berosh Hashanah Yikatevun, and the choir would go, Uviyom Tzom Kippur. It was an hour ordeal, right? You have these cantorial concerts surrounding it. I come to a Sephardic shul, they have no idea what I'm talking about. Never heard of it. Yizkor is not mentioned in the Sephardic shul. So you have what's important for but you go to a Sephardic shul, and you're gonna sing, right, all the songs. There's a lot, right? So you have different versions, different things, but you have what's called what was I saying?
Different
Custom.
show, different stuff.
You abide by
Well, I was saying that.
Angels.
Moses
Moshe
went
on
down.
Went
mountain.
on the ark, so he was
Why
following
you didn't get a drink?
Okay, I lost my exact number, but it will come. But yeah.
You were saying about the customs, like Moshe followed the customs.
Oh yes. Okay. So there's three things. There's Torah, Tefillah, Tzedakah. On Rosh Hashanah, what we do, thank you. What we do is we have these three things which we say during the Unetane Tokef prayer. Uteshuva, utefila, utzedaka. Shuva, repentance, tefillah, prayer, and tzedakah. Ma'avirin et roa gzeira. They annul the decree. So you have Torah, tefillah, tzedakah. Torah is Torah, tefillah is prayer, tzedakah is giving charity. Right? We all know if you have a decree, if you have something bad happening to you. Somebody just emailed me this week and they said that the father is 52 years old. Can we please pray? He has cancer. Rahman and son. Can we please pray that he survive for his son's bar mitzvah in a few months? So I gave them advice. Torah, tefillah, tzedakah. That's the three things that break down the evil decree. If anybody has something evil that they think happening, Torah, tefillah, tzedakah. Now, these three things were actually what Moses did on the mountain, on the Har Sinai for three times. The first time he went was to receive the Torah. Right? The first time he went, it was after the giving of the Torah. He went and he came down with the first tablets. He went and he studied Torah. That was the Torah idea. The second time that he went to pray for the Jewish people, tefillah. And the third time, what did he go get? Tshuva. Tshuva, he went and got repentance for the Jewish people. Each of these words begin with the letter Taf. Taf is 400. 400 is 40 times 10. 40 is the number 40 that we are focusing on today. And 10 is the 10 faculties of the soul. In our Tanya class on Wednesday nights, next week we're going to learn about the 10 sfirot, the 10 faculties of the soul. The 3 which are Chokhmah, Binah, Da'at, which are the brain. And then the 7 which are the attributes. So 7 plus 3 is 10. 10 times 4, 10 is the shlemut, the completion, the perfection of the person. 10 times 4 is 40, which is exactly 400, which is Torah, Tefillah, and Tshuva. Okay? Now, it says, when you learn Torah, only after 40 years, Arboim Shona, Koim Inish Adaita de Rabbi. After 40 years, you can finally understand your rabbi. 40 years. It says actually in the ancient times you could only study the Zohar at what age? 40 years old. In fact, till today, people hesitate, I don't want to study any Kabbalah till 40. Tanya is something else. In today's generation, you can study it at 3 years old, no problem at all. But the idea of 40 years old is a thing. We find it in Torah. 40 years it takes you to absorb, to understand Torah, takes you 40 years. Where do we find the concept in prayer? I mentioned before, there's all these omens, segulot, when you daven for 40 days. 40 days, it's going to change the decree. We daven and pray for 40. And where do we find the concept of tshuva associated with 40?
Hello.
Very good. The month of Elul, which we are about to begin the marathon of the month of Elul, is 40. Why is it 40? From Rosh Chodesh Elul till Yom Kippur. Because 40 breaks the cycle, as we will soon see. By the way, other things that happen 40 days, the Mabul. How long was the Mabul for? The flood? 40. It's the most consequential number in the whole Bible. 7 is very important and 8 is very important. 7 are the days of the week. 7 are the straps of the tefillin that I put around. And 8 are the days of Chanukah. And 8 are the days of Sukkot, 7 or 8, right? There's so many 7, 8s. There's 8 days of the bris. But there's nothing which comes close to the number 40.
40 years in the desert.
40 years in the desert, Moses' leadership, as we mentioned. Rabbi Akiva, which you mentioned before, Rabbi Akiva also led the Jewish people for 40 years. And he died at 120 years old. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai also, 40 years. Why 40? Why 40? Well, why not 39? By the way, we find the concept of lashes. How many lashes does a person get? 40. 40 yakenu lo yosif. 40. Practically he only gets 39. But 40. When you go and you eat, I don't know, meat and milk, for example, and there's all the conditions associated with it, you get 40 lashes. Why 40? 40, 40, 40. Why 40? What is 40? Listen carefully. The answer is 40 is the number required to change. If you want to change yourself, if you want to change your bad habits, change your anger, change your depression, change your character traits, it's 40 that's needed. To break yourself, it's 40. You know, there's a soldier here in New York here, and he's been spending 6 weeks already to try and get a new arm. And to get a new arm is very, very frustrating because it's building a prosthetic arm. It's not something that is just easily done. Like, okay, let me go to the shop, let me get a hand, and let me get an arm. It's nothing. The soldier was in Khan Yunis in November of 2023. I've mentioned this story before. And a terrorist came out of nowhere and shot him with a missile. All his insides came out of his back. Terrible, terrible situation. And he lost an arm. And this soldier is here in New York with Belev Echad. We brought him here to get an arm, a new prosthetic arm. And it's extremely, extremely tedious process. Especially in this guy's situation where the arm is just, it's a big problem. And finally, yesterday, he was on the way, and I got a video from him, how I see how the new arm works, and he's so excited. It's the latest tech. Basically, he can move it like this. He moves his right hand like this, and the left hand moves like this. It's incredible. It's actually science fiction, you know, like the movies. Literally, he's got like a hand. It's amazing what science can do. And just when he's testing it for 2 hours, he's getting all excited, and finally his mood is getting up. What happens to him? The elbow breaks. So this is like buying a new car. Imagine you buy the latest Tesla, and you driving it, and you bought your spouse for your birthday of this thing, and what happens? It breaks. And I spoke to the guy. He was so frustrated. And at times like this, you can get so angry. And you can get so upset. It's like, this is bad luck. It's literally bad luck. So we called the store and they said, oh yeah, there's a warranty and it happens and whatever. So we sent it back to the thing, they're fixing it, they're sending it back, and tomorrow morning hopefully you'll have it again. But what's required to break the habits here, and to understand and to believe that everything comes from Hashem, is exactly what we're talking about now. By the way, last night also I rushed out of the Tanya class. I went to the Noidu and we had dinner with these soldiers, and one of them, I had actually heard his story for the first time. His name is Jonathan, and I was astounded. He was roommates with a girl, and he was a commander in the army. Like, he wasn't just a regular soldier, he was a commander. And 2023 he goes in and he's destroying Hamas infrastructure and saving lives, literally saving lives, and out of nowhere, whatever happened to him. And there's actually two things that the soldiers say is the worst injury possible, and hopefully nobody should ever have this, is one is blindness. And the other one is shrapnel in your brain. Like, this is the worst kind of injury, and this soldier has the both. Not only is he 100% blind, not only is he got shrapnel in his brain, he's actually missing an arm as well. And he's here to get a prosthetic for his arm. And he said to me, I would give up my arm, my leg, for my eyesight. The eyesight is like, it's horrendous. It's terrible. So his girlfriend, I asked him how they get together, whatever. So he said they were roommates. They were roommates for 2 years before the injury in Tel Aviv. And after he got injured, they became a couple. And that is astounding. That's amazing. This woman is just amazing. Taking care of this guy in the most incredible, selfless way. You want to know what midot tovot are? This is it. And this guy, his parents are religious. He's not. His parents are religious. And when he got injured, they asked them on the news, what is your message for the world? What would you like to say? And over and over and over, they gave the same message. We're asking Am Yisrael to unite. What's more important than anything else is having Ahavat Israel, loving a fellow Jew, loving each other. Stop with the fighting. Stop with the bickering. We are one people, one nation, as we learned at length in Tanya last night, that we are all one people, one nation. Okay, so 40 is the amount of time required to create something new. To make me into a new person, that's the number 40. So Moses was complaining in our Parsha. What was he complaining about? And I didn't eat over there for 40 days and 40 nights. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being like an angel? What's wrong with being like an angel? I didn't eat for 40 days and 40 nights. Who cares? You know, one time there was somebody who asked Rabbi Yonasan Eibishitz. He says, I read through the whole Torah. And I can believe everything in the Torah. You know, I believe the flood. And I believe Joseph's story. And I believe the creation of the world. But one thing I cannot believe in, I don't believe that Moses went up there 3 times into God and he didn't eat for 40 days and 40 nights. It doesn't make sense. And also there's no proof. Who said that he didn't eat? Moses wrote in the Torah, Arba'im yom lo achalti, I didn't eat it. So Moses said, well, he made it up. I don't believe it, right? So Rabbi Yonasan Eibishitz answered a beautiful answer. He says, I guarantee you Moses didn't lie. Why? Because if Moses wanted to lie, he had a much better lie. In Gemara, Talmudical terms, it's called migui. Migui means I could have had a better lie. Like if you're familiar with the Talmudical analysis, you know, I once had a guy here, irreligious, 20 years ago, he wanted to learn Talmud. Why? Because he wanted to do well in the stock market, and he heard if you learn the Talmud, you're able to analyze very, very well, like, you know, with your thumb like that. The Koreans, I think, learn the Talmud, just to become smart people. So the Talmud has this analytical thing called migui. If Moses wanted to lie, and he didn't, and he was like an angel for 40 days and 40 nights, he could have had a better lie. What could have been his lie? He could have written in the Torah that he didn't die, and he became an angel. Just like it says about Pinchas, for example. Pinchas didn't die when he became an angel. But instead, what did Moses write in the Torah? He says, I died, I left, my soul left my body, I'm like a human being. So I believe him when he says for 40 days he didn't eat. That's what Rabbi Yonasan Eibishitz answered. Anyways, but getting back to this, why was Moses so upset? He said like, oh, this is a terrible thing. Like I had to go up there for 3 times because you guys sinned. The answer is, because a human being needs to be an angel here in this world. Not an angel up there. Our mission, our purpose is to live in this physical, mundane universe where it's bad and it's tough and it's rough, and make this world into a better place. That is our mission. You know, what's the difference between a human being and an iPhone and a galaxy? You know, but basically the same thing. You want to laugh, the galaxy has an app to laugh. You want to cry, the iPhone has an app to laugh. Everything. The difference is, as I've said many times, a human being has a soul. It's alive. We wake up in the morning and we are grumpy and we're frustrated. This morning actually I woke up, I was in such a good mood. I have a chavruta in the morning. Anyway, I was upstate, I was in Pomona. And this guy, my chavruta said, I'm going to this new mikveh. He's telling me about this new mikveh. I went to a mikveh in Pomona. I've never seen a mikveh like this in my life. This mikveh is like unbelievable. It's got a sauna there, and it's got a steam bath, and it's got a cold water mikveh, and then a boiling hot mikveh. It was so hot, it was crazy. And you go inside, it's like, geschmack, you're starting your day, it's like, beautiful, put me in a good mood. Right? Anyways, sometimes we wake up and we're grumpy, and we're frustrated, and we're upset. And then other times we wake up, we're so happy, we're so excited. But that's what God wants. He wants us to be human beings. He wants us to feel. He wants us to activate that self inside of us and to uplift it, to become holy and to become better people. That is our mission. That is our purpose. And that's what we accomplish through the number 40. It requires work. There's nothing that is easy in this world. We need to work hard. God created us imperfect because He wants us to work. 40 is that number that's required to change that anger inside of you, that depression. You have a bad character trait. Let's say you love eating non-kosher sushi. You love it. You want to break that habit? Do it 1 day. That's great. Do it 2 days. That's wonderful. 3, 4. But when you get to 40, you know you've broken that trait. You know you've changed. You've become a new person. You can't relax. You need to always be on guard. But 40 is the number. You know, the Talmud tells a story of a guy. His wife died, and he had no money to feed his child. So he prayed to Hashem, please, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? And God made him have breasts. And he was able to feed his child. Talmud tells the story. But this is not how Hashem wants it. What Hashem wants is that you go struggle in the world. And it's not easy. Like finding a shidduch is not easy. And making a living in a parnasah is not easy. And making a decision to come on a Thursday night to a Torah class is not easy. Because you have so many options on a Thursday night, even in August in the city. There's so many options, so many things you could do. But you choose to come here. That's part of the 40, breaking it. Come 40 times in a row here. Then, then we know you truly love it. So Elul is the time for change. The wind of Elul is about to blow. We wish each other K'tivah v'chatimah tova, may you rewritten and inscribed in a good year. So that's why it's 40. Because it takes 40 days. According to the Sfardim, you start off Slichot already. Rosh Chodesh Elul, Slichot every day. Ashkenazim do it the last week. Even the Ashkenazim this year have it 10 days. 10 days Slichot. Normally we have it 4 or 5 days Slichot. And we start blowing the shofar every single day of Elul because it's the idea of 40. Once upon a time, the Rebbe Maharash was the 4th Chabad Rebbe. And he went to Paris. Took his horse and wagon, and he went to Paris with 4 aides. And he went to the most expensive hotel in Paris. Went to the front desk, and the front desk said, you want this? Yeah, this is like for kings, normally reserved this week. He said, yeah, I want this thing. And it was on the floor of the gambling, the casino. The gambling casino. The Hasidim, around him were surprised, like the Maharash said, this is not a place to hang out. And he went to the casino, and there was a Jew there who was gambling, and every once in a while was sipping non-kosher wine. And the Rebbe Maharash went over to him, put his hand on his shoulder, and he said to him, Junger man, young man, yain nesech is metamed moyach. This wine is impure and it contaminates you. One is not allowed to drink your kosher wine. He said it 3 times to him. And the young man didn't understand what he wants. He says, what are you talking about? Like what? So he says, this yain nesech, non-kosher wine, dulls your heart. It dulls your mind. You see, what happens is when you intake non-kosher food, non-kosher wine, once, twice, 3 times, 40 times, 40 years worth of it, it becomes ingrained inside of you. The bad habits, the aveira, the sins becomes part and parcel of who you are. It's very, very, very difficult to take it out. Like we learn in the Tanya, it's called klipa, the shell surrounding the soul. And the shell becomes bigger shell and a bigger shell and a thicker shell and a thicker shell. So this guy, by drinking this yain nesech, had so much. By the way, the Rebbe would tell people who have problems with emunah, with belief in God, to keep Chalav Israel. So you have a problem, keep Chalav Israel. It's like a good omen, a good sign for it. But this guy, basically, the Rebbe Maharash then left. And this guy, 2 hours later, was seen by the Hasidim walking into the Rebbe Maharash's suite. And they sat there for 2 hours. And the guy came out after 2 hours crying. And he came out, he had a very lofty soul. Like we learned in the Tanya last night, some people have a lofty soul. And this guy became the head of the famous Klein family in France, which became a Hasidic family, and that's how the Rebbe Maharash saved this person. Took him out of that klipa, that thing that was ingrained inside of him, and was able to take him out of it. So 40 is the number needed to create a new boss, a new being, a new thing. So if you do something for 40 days, you're good. You're able to say, I made it, I changed, I did it. And that's why you have all these skulot in Torah, Tefillah, Tshuva, 40 days, 40 times. I tell the story of the guy who didn't have any money. And in the olden days, you needed money to marry off your daughter. Right? You need money to marry your daughter off. Because you need a dowry, you need an adan. So the guy came to his Rebbe. And he said, I have no money to marry my daughter off. What should I do? I need a blessing. So the Rebbe says, what do you have in your pocket? He says, I only have one coin. One small coin that can buy nothing, basically. That's all I have. How much do you need to marry your daughter? He said, I need 1,000 rubles. So the Rebbe told him, go and the first thing that somebody offers you to buy it. And may God be with you. So the guy went. And on his way back home, he stops by an inn. That was where people stopped by. And he sees a couple of drunk people there. And in the middle of their drunkenness, they see him, they notice a Hasidic Jew there, so they went over to him. And these were Jews, but not exactly the most religious. So they went over to him and said, what do you want? What are you doing? He said, I came from my Rebbe. My Rebbe told me to buy the first thing I can. Okay, I have a diamond here, you want to buy it? He says, yeah, of course I want to buy it. How much do you have? A little coin. They start laughing at him. He says, I need to buy anything. So he says, the guy says, you know what you could buy? You could buy my portion in the world to come. Will you buy it for that? He says, sure, I'll buy it for that. So they make a contract. The guy said, I'll sell you my portion of the world to come for this kopic, this coin. And the guys are laughing at him and anyway, they fall asleep like that. A couple hours later, the guy's wife, who was in the inn, comes. She says, what's the rukus? What happened here? So they start telling her this joke of this guy who came and he doesn't have the portion of the world to come. So the wife got very serious. She says, I'm not living with a guy who sold his portion in Olam Haba. I cannot live with you. If you don't have a portion of the world to come, I'm not living with you. She says, it's a joke, who cares? She says, no, buy it back. So he went to the guy, he said, here's your coin back, give me back that paper. He said, no, absolutely not. No way. He said, okay, I'll give you 2 coins. No, how much do you want for it? He said, I'll give you 10 coins, 20 coins. He said, you be sure that 20 coins, what kind of investment? 1 coin for 20? He says, I'll sell it for 1,000 rubles, nothing less. He said, you're out of your mind, you're crazy. He says, I needed to marry my daughter off. My Rebbe told me, I told him that's what I need. 1,000 rubles, that's what I'm selling it for. So he went back to his wife, told him the guy's crazy. So the guy said, I don't care. The wife said, I'm not living with somebody who doesn't have a portion of the world to come. Sorry. So the guy was a wealthy guy, he could afford it. And she forced him. So when a wife wants something, by the way, there's nothing that any man can do to resist her. Nothing. It says, Isha kshera osa ratzon ba'ala. The superficial explanation of that verse is the following. Isha kshera, a good woman, osa ratzon ba'ala, does the will of her husband. So the superficial explanation is, your wife cooks for you. She cleans for you. She does, right? That's what it says. Superficial explanation. Isha kshera does whatever her husband wants. Whatever the husband wants, she does, right? I tell it to my wife and I'll be kicked out that day, But the Hasidic explanation is, Isha kshera, a good woman, osa, she creates the will of her husband. She makes her husband do everything. She pushes him for spiritual reasons, spirituality. That is the depth of a Hasidic woman. That is the power of a woman. There's no man that can resist a woman. It doesn't exist. So this guy couldn't resist his wife. He went to buy her for 1,000 rubles. But anyway, they went back to the Rebbe, and the woman wanted to know. Here's what's her question. She says, is my husband's Olam Haba worth 1,000 rubles? That's what she wanted to know. So the Rebbe told her, before he bought it for 1,000 rubles, it wasn't even worth a coin. When he sold his portion of the world to come, it wasn't even worth a coin. But when he bought it back for 1,000 rubles and he gave charity for that, it's worth infinitely more than 1,000 rubles. That was the answer. You see, to break this guy, it required a special mitzvah, 1,000 rubles, a special mitzvah performed by the Rebbe. But for us, people here, we can break our bad habits. We can become better people. We can become better Jews. And that's what the month of Elul is, 40 days, yes. Oh, sorry, no question, okay. That's what it is, 40 days. I saw, in shul, I'm like the default candy man. When we come to our shul, I give out the candy for the kids. So this past Shabbat, my daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, I have the candy, and she said, no, I want to choose. So she's like, I saw her, there was 6 different colors of lollies in the pot. And she put the 6 over there, and I saw her, she's like debating, the green one, the purple one, the yellow one, the pink one, the blue one, back and forth, she couldn't decide. She couldn't decide which one to take. I'm looking at her, and like, this is interesting, And then she makes a lottery. She literally makes a lottery, like this eeny, meeny, money, mo kind of eeny, meeny, money, mo, da, 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 finally lands on that one. And she's okay, fine, I'll take that one. Because in life, there are so many pleasures. We are all that 9-year-old child. There's so many pleasures that take us from here and from here and from here, and we can't decide, and we can't determine. Comes Elul and tells us we have the power, we have the capability to change. The reason why Elul is 40 days is to teach us that we can change, we can do it. The choice is ours. It's difficult, it's supremely difficult. And especially since the 11 months of the year we are, we go this way, we divert to here, we divert to there, we divert to those lollies. But Elul teaches us we can change. We can. If we focus on Elul, if we focus on those 40 days of Elul, the whole year changes. Comes Yom Kippur, Machulach, God says, I forgive you. That's why it's so important to get in the mindset of Elul already now. Because when Elul hits, we got to hit the road running. And we got to get inspired and get involved and make that change, which is possible. And I'm going to finish off with this final story. There was the Baal Shem Tov once, in the times of Baal Shem Tov, there was a tailor. A poor tailor was drunk on the streets. And the Baal Shem Tov was told that whatever this tailor says comes true. Whenever he gives a blessing to anybody, no matter what, it comes true. So people go to him, they give him like a large generous donation, and that's how he lives, and he blesses them and they have a good day. So the Baal Shem Tov, bring him to me. And the Baal Shem Tov talks to him and starts discussing life with him and tells him about tell me, what do you do with your life? How did this come about? So he said, me and my partner, we were tailors. And we were poor people making a living. And then one day, the local prince or somebody big saw us and made a big order from us, and we went to live by this guy for 2 years, making his clothing and everything else. For 2 years we lived there. And after 2 years, the guy paid us 600 rubles. So 300 rubles for me, 300 rubles for my partner. And we were both so happy. We would come home to our spouses and our families. 300 rubles is a fortune. We were rich people. And we worked hard for it for 2 years. Our families didn't see us. On the way back, we were already halfway home. And we notice that there's a commotion in the inn where we're staying. Big commotion. What's going on? There was a family who couldn't pay their rent. And the Poritz, in those days the Poritz had full jurisdiction over you, the Poritz put them in jail. And this family would basically die in jail. Hostages today in Gaza, Hamas, this is what it was in those days. So we realized we had the mitzvah of Pidyon Shvuim, of helping a fellow Jew. So the guy came to us and he said, how much does the family owe? It was 300 rubles that they owed. So I went to my partner and I said, we have 600 rubles between us. Let's give half. You give half, I give half. We'll save a Jewish family. What a mitzvah, what a zchus. And my partner said, listen, I've worked so hard for this money. My chazis, the domach, the doch, why is their blood redder than my blood? Why is this family better than my family? My family needs the money just as much as this family. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I want to do it, but I can't. So this tailor says, the Baal Shem Tov, I couldn't resist. The family needed it. So I took all my 300 rubles and I gave it to this family. And I saved the family. And before I changed my mind, before I could see them, I just ran away. And my luck turned pretty sour because I was 2 years away and my family owed money. They were relying on me. And so I took to the streets. I became a beggar. I became a poor beggar. And then one day, a guy comes over to me and he asks, and I asked him for a donation, and he gives me a koppek, whatever. And I gave him a blessing. That guy, that day, had the most successful day ever in his life. And he's like, oh my God, what happened today? And he tracked it down to that tailor. So anyway, the next time he did a business deal, he went back to this tailor, gave him a generous donation, got a blessing, and he had an amazing day. And that's how this guy became wealthy. And then one day when he was sponsoring a kiddush in shul, he told everybody the secret. The secret is that whenever he has a business deal facing him, he goes to the tailor, and whatever the tailor blesses him comes through. And that's how the tailor became a popular blessing maker. He blessed people all the time because he had the ability to bless people. The Baal Shem Tov said, which is the message of tonight's shiur, when a Jew does a mitzvah, a Jew is able to rise above his selfish self, rise above all those klipot, all those impurities that he has, and he's able to rise right above, just with one mitzvah. Now, in order to sustain that change, in order to make it happen and last, 40 days of Elul. 40 is the number required to keep and maintain that change and to truly become a brand new person. You want to become a new person, not the person you are? 40. And that is why 40 is the most fundamental, important number in the whole Torah. Because when you do it for 40, you rise above, you become a new human being, a new person. That is the message of tonight's class.